Put together the perfect travel itinerary. This is our review of Let's Go to Japan.
Let's Go to Japan is a drafting set collection game about planning the best trip to Tokyo and Kyoto. And I think I found out that I'm not that good at planning trips while playing this game.
Trip planning may not sound like the most exciting theme, however, it's actually a lot of fun. We'll tell you all about it after this quick how to play. Let's Go to Japan has played over 13 rounds of card drafting and one final scoring round.
During the first 13 rounds, players will draw cards from the shared deck or their own draw pile.
Players will choose half of the cards to play to their itinerary and the other half to pass to the next player.
Players are choosing activities in either Tokyo or Kyoto and placing 3 activities per day on their 6-day trip.
After 13 rounds, the itineraries will be filled and players will score their trips.
Players will score points for collecting icon types and meeting the set requirements for the final card played on each day's itinerary.
Players will score bonuses for having a happy mood and lose points for having a stressful mood.
Players will also have to pay the cost to travel between Tokyo and Kyoto, which could cost them points or gain them points depending on their goals.
The player with the most points from the best itinerary wins. Before you go off making travel plans, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button.
All your likes and subscribes really help our channel grow, so thank you.
Let's Go to Japan is all about making the perfect trip itinerary. And that really hits home with me because whenever we go on trips, I always like to plan every little detail and figure out all the possible places we can go to, pack every day full from sunup to sundown, making sure we do as much as we can while we're there. But the mechanics at the heart of this game is card drafting. You're gonna have 13 rounds of drafting cards. You're gonna have 2 cards in your hand or 4 cards in your hand, and you're gonna play 2 or play 1, and you gotta pick the best itinerary over the course of 6 days. The expansion adds a 7th day, which adds a scoring opportunity. So you're still filling up 6 days, but you have that 7th day with that scoring opportunity. And I like card drafting. It's normally kind of repetitive after a while, and I do think that this does get repetitive after a while. 13 is probably just the right amount of rounds that you would want before it would be like, okay, I get it, let's move on. However, I like the planning so much that the card drafting kind of makes it simple because you have so many things that you're looking at with all your days, you have to plan so much. So drafting cards and either having 1 of 2 options or 2 of 4 options helps to limit the analysis paralysis that might happen while trying to plan. Because you're like, okay, I have all these great possible things I could do. Where am I going to put that? What am I going to do? What am I going to? So even though it's just a card drafting mechanic, there's still a lot of thinking involved. And I think that that simple mechanic was the right choice for this type of a theme and this type of a gameplay.
I will admit, when we got this game to the table and you open up your player board, you've got the days of the week, it felt a little daunting and made me nervous because as far as trip planning goes, I don't plan too deep, right? I have like, oh, we're definitely going to do this and we're going to do that. And in between that, I guess we'll figure it out. So when it's like, nope, you have to plan, 6 days, the entire week, and then you can only do these amount of stuff per day, I was like, oh, okay, hold on. I like this game very much because I just love how the icons really help you too. It's like, oh, okay, well, these icons match here, so it makes sense for you to put the activity here. Or if you're like, oh, Kyoto, Tokyo, like that has a +-2 if you're deciding like which activity to do, because obviously you gotta travel from Tokyo to Kyoto, so traveling back and forth is going to be an issue, and that's built into the game, that little cost or that mechanic. I really like how they did that, because if without that you would just be like, whatever, just put all these here, boom, here's my set, just score it. The whole trip planning, it's really something that I got into, was still very bad with it, even in like game format versus, same with real life format. I wasn't that great, but it clicked a little bit more like how people could have fun planning stuff.
So it's a trip planning theme, but really it's an abstract puzzle game and you're trying to figure out the right order of cards and the right placement of the cards to score the most points. If you take away all the theming and you just look at the icons on the card and what the final scoring opportunity for that day is requiring you with those icons, it's like Lee said, you just try to match up the icons as best as you can based on your card drafting. Sometimes you may have bad luck with the cards that you have, but hopefully you still have places on your 6 days of opportunities with your itinerary that you'll be able to place them.
So as you're adding the activities and each day is only allowed to have 3, each time you're adding more and more, at the very bottom is like a set requirement and to score points. And as you're adding them, you can kind of choose like, no, I don't like this one. I'll just put this here now. Maybe I'll get 2 other ones that'll like make it a little bit better, and that's the one that I really want. So I like how you're always given these opportunities with each draft to be like, no, I can do better. And then, you kind of plan it apart on your other day, like put it there, like, okay, maybe it'll be a little bit better here, or that's just a throwaway. I'm definitely going to put something over that. I'm not even going to go after that goal at all. So I like how it lets you have these little micro or mini decisions of like, oh, do I, don't I, do it? Okay. Very easy. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So I like how it's kind of a quick, you can evaluate it and then say, okay, that's going to be my activity and that's the final one for the day.
This is the Kickstarter version, and it came with 2 expansions. The 7th day expansion, which is the scoring opportunity. So you're still placing the same amount of cards, you just have a scoring opportunity. And then it had a passport expansion, which adds asymmetric abilities to it. And the same thing with the cards, it's kind of a luck of the draw. You'll have 2 that you draw, then you pick one, but some of them are a little bit more overpowered than others. So I think you really need to play it a couple times, figure out which ones are the overpowered ones, and then take those ones out of the game so you don't play with those, so no one has too much of an advantage. And then you can really have a lot of fun. I think that the passport and the 7th day make it worth it. So if that's not always included, if that was a Kickstarter thing, if you can get your hands on the 7th day or the passport expansions, I feel like that really does complete the game, and you should always play with that. We've never played without it, because when I was learning the game, I was like, okay, I learned the game. Then I learned with those expansions, I was like, okay, we're never gonna play without those. So I didn't even teach anybody else how to play without the expansions. Also with the Kickstarter, we also got the little bowls to go with it, and they hold the pieces that you can put the different pieces. They have 4 pieces that you can have as a shared resource, and you can put them in the bowls. I don't think it's necessary. I wouldn't have bought them in hindsight now that we have them. I'll probably use them for something else, just as regular little bowls. But it was kind of fun when you looked at the Kickstarter, like, oh, that'd be fun. And you're playing with it. Oh, okay, first time fun. But we've never brought them out again other than to film this review. So I don't think you need the bowls.
So I like how all the mini decisions you make, like, oh, I'm going to put this activity on this day, or I'm going to put it on this day. Even if, let's say, you made a bad choice, the game is very forgiving that you can just cover it up or play something else, and you can make it work. You can pivot. So I like how 1 or 2 or 3 or all bad moves aren't really bad moves. They're just, you can kind of recover and still like score pretty well in it.
I really enjoy how balanced the game is as you're playing the game. Even though it's a luck of the draw and you can get some bad cards, for the most part, you can play them face down and then do the walk sign and then play a different card, do a couple other options that you have if you really want to go that route. Or you just play them and then hope that you're going to play something else on top of it to score it differently. So I do think that there are a lot of ways, as Lee said, it's forgiving, but it's also, there's a lot of ways to score. It's really a point salad. Each day it's going to score its own thing. So even if you have a bad Monday, your Tuesday might be really good. So even if Lee has a good Monday, a good Tuesday, a good Wednesday, I might have a good Thursday, Friday, Saturday and come back and beat him. So you can really organize and figure out which days you want to make stronger than the others. What did you not like about it?
I know it's a part of the game. And it's not that I hate it or anything. I just didn't like how I just kept losing points whenever I went from Kyoto and Tokyo, because I didn't have enough train tickets, or and then I lost the points. That's just poor planning on my part. I didn't like that part, but I understand that's a very important mechanic here, especially of planning and trying to get the most points. But it hurt me a lot.
The thing that I didn't like about the game is the luck of the draw factor when you're drawing the cards, so much so that I don't think it really works at 2 players. The box says 1 to 5, but I don't think in 2 players when it's more of that duel scenario when the card that you're discarding is being passed to the other player. When you draw, it's like, okay, well, if you get 2 really bad ones, yeah, you can give the other player the bad one, but eventually if you're both are drawing bad cards and you're passing bad cards, all that's left are bad cards. That could leave a sour taste in your mouth. The other thing is you're always drawing a Tokyo and a Kyoto, or 2 Tokyos and 2 Kyotos. And so if you're passing, you can kind of manipulate the game, and maybe this is a strategy, but I don't like it, but you can kind of manipulate the game where, oh, I'm always gonna be choosing the Tokyo cards, so then the ones that you're passing, you're like, well, I guess I kind of get stuck with the Kyoto cards. And you're almost sitting there as a player going, all right, which one's Kenny gonna pass? Oh, he's passing that one, so maybe I'll go with this strategy so that Kenny doesn't try to screw me over later on by he sees I'm doing a Tokyo strategy, he's gonna keep giving me Kyoto cards, and I'm gonna have to do all these train tickets. So I don't really like the 2 players. When it's 3 players, you can kind of have that strategy and it rotates back and forth depending on which way the arrows are showing on here as far as which way you're passing. So certain players may come after you, but then it will change, but then what they're passing you may not be different from what they're passing you. So it kind of makes it a little bit more even when you have 3 or 4 or 5 players versus a 2 player. When you're always passing back and forth, then I don't feel like it really works, and it kind of has a diminishing returns as you're playing.
Overall, I'd recommend this game. On BGG, I'd probably give it like an 8. Just the production value, you know, you get all the little cards, all the little illustrations of Kyoto and Tokyo. So, you know, some of it is like sightseeing, so things you might recognize in Kyoto or Tokyo. From that point, I really like, because I've always planned on going to Japan, so maybe one day I'll go and I'll grab some of these activities and be like, oh, definitely gonna do this and this there. It plays really well and it's easy to learn. And, you know, even though I said I'm not like much of a trip planner, after playing this, I still want to play it again. Maybe it'll help my trip planning skills, or maybe it's just the fun puzzly aspect of icons and, oh, do I go here? Do I go here? Just those little micro decisions or mini decisions really like make me feel like I'm planning something, right? And I can go to my wife and be like, oh, look, like, yeah, I planned something. Maybe we can do this in Tokyo, which she'll probably say no and just plan it herself.
Overall, I would recommend this game. On Board Game Geek, I'd probably give it an 8. I really enjoyed the planning aspect, that puzzle of putting all the pieces together and figuring out the right scoring opportunities for each day. I really like the expansions. I feel like it adds a little bit more to the game when you get that 7th day, you get the passport card. I really like the theming of traveling to Japan and looking at all the activities. The art is fun. I do think it's a really balanced game and everyone can have a lot of fun. The only thing, like I said, I don't really like it at 2 players, so I would definitely try to make sure if you're going to play this game, make sure you have a group of 3, 4, or 5 to play this game. But overall, I really recommend this game. And that was our review of Let's Go to Japan.
What'd you think? Is this going to make your board game night itinerary? Let us know in the comments below.
And as always, if you're enjoying our content, please like this video and subscribe to our channel.
Until next time, I'm Lee.
And I'm Kenny. I go party like a board gamer.